Handa-kun begins by showing a young man named Handa Sei, a second-year high school student who is very good at calligraphy. Handa is the most popular student, revered by all for his incomparable calligraphy skills, good looks, and cool personality. However, due to an endless series of misunderstandings, Handa perceives the worship he receives from his legions of fans as bullying, leading the school's idol to shut himself off from the rest of his schoolmates. One day, Handa found a letter in his shoe locker. Because Handa had an unpleasant experience in middle school, Handa also thought that the letter might contain threats directed at him. Handa, who became overthinking because of many things, decided to immediately throw the letter in the trash. But apparently, the person who wrote the letter, a girl named Maiko, saw Handa throwing her letter into the trash. Maiko's best friend, a girl named Juri, then asks Handa to apologize to Maiko for throwing away her letter. Juri told Handa that Maiko had been struggling to write the letter all night. Handa also apologized to Maiko and asked the girl to say directly what she wrote in the letter. With an awkward tone, Maiko said she wanted to tell him something and asked the young man to meet behind the school gym after school. Suddenly, he became overthinking and thought that the girl and her gang might be bullying him. Various speculations appeared in Handa's mind. However, that might just make the situation worse. Moreover, Juri was always looking at him with a sharp gaze, as if always watching him. Handa then gets an idea to write a letter to the girl. But because Handa doesn't know her name, he wrote the letter to Juri. But then, the teacher asked Handa to work on math problems in front of the class. Handa, who is also really good at math, can easily work on the problem. On the other hand, Juri looks radiant because Handa always stares at her. Juri, secretly liking Handa, thought of confessing her feelings to him, especially after Handa gave a letter to her which was written in beautiful calligraphy. Juri, who misunderstood, thought the letter declared Handa's love for her. However, Juri immediately feels guilty. She betrays her best friend, Maiko, that also had a crush on Handa. While having lunch with Maiko, Juri actually felt annoyed when Maiko openly said that she befriends her because Juri is uglier than her. Towards the end of school, Handa looks more and more worried because he doesn't get any response from Maiko, even though Maiko should have received his letter, which he left to Juri. Since the plan didn't go as he wanted, Handa decided to keep seeing Maiko after school and clear up any misunderstandings. Long story short, Handa finally went to the back of the school gym, where Maiko and Juri had been waiting for the young man's arrival, like other students who were curious about what would happen between them. Seeing the many people there, Handa immediately felt nervous, especially when Maiko handed him a pink envelope. On the other hand, Juri tries to stop Maiko from expressing her feelings to Handa because Juri now considers Maiko her rival in terms of fighting over Handa's love. When Juri and Maiko were fighting, Handa took the opportunity to rush away. Before he leaves, Handa tells Maiko and Juri not to fight over trivial matters and asks the two girls to take care of each other. However, Maiko still insists on handing over her letter to Handa. Handa said her writing was awful and left the girl just like that. Maiko looks sad and disappointed when Handa rejects her feelings and mocks her writing. Juri then entertained her best friend by inviting Maiko to take a calligraphy course so she could write a beautiful love letter to Handa. The next day, Handa's class voted to determine the class president. A young man named Aizawa Junichi, who has often been the class president, is again running for the class president. On the other hand, Handa had no idea why he was chosen as one of the class presidential candidates, even though he did not run. Because one student did not attend school, the vote was even. Aizawa then asked to do rock, paper, scissors. Even though Handa had intended to give up so that Aizawa could win the game, it turned out that Handa was the one who came out as the winner. Handa, who didn't want to be the class president, resigned so that Aizawa could replace him. However, Aizawa refuses and assumes that Handa did it out of pity for him. In the end, Handa remained the class president, while Aizawa became the vice class president who promised to help Handa wholeheartedly. The scene then switches and shows a handsome young man named Nikaido Reo, who works as a model. Nikaido was quite popular, but after he became Handa's schoolmate, his popularity fell far short compared to Handa. Nikaido, who doesn't accept being compared to Handa, decides to follow Handa secretly to discover the secret to Handa's popularity. Nikaido had lost track of Handa and tried to look everywhere for the young man's whereabouts until his clothes were dirty. Not long after, Nikaido saw Handa entering an area with many talent agents from entertainment companies. Because he doesn't want Handa to be recruited by the agency that houses him, Nikaido tries to stop them from seeing Handa. However, his efforts were in vain because the talent agents had already seen Handa and asked the young man to wear his chosen outfit. However, Handa politely refused their request and put the outfit on Nikaido. At the same time, Nikaido finally realizes that Handa is very kind, making Handa very popular at school. After that, Nikaido no longer cares about popularity and chooses to accept himself, especially now that he has also been fired from the agency company. A few days later, Handa is asked to give a lesson summary to a student named Tsutsui Akane, who often skips school. As a class president, he must care for his classmates, but Handa is too lazy to go to Tsutsui's house. Arriving there, Handa thought there was no one at Tsutsui's house, so he decided to leave. But then, a tough-looking delinquent boy approached Handa, claiming to be Tsutsui. Handa suddenly felt surprised because Tsutsui's appearance was completely different from the one in the photo, where Tsutsui used to be thin and had a cute look, so he was often bullied by his schoolmates. Because of that, Tsutsui decided not to come to school anymore and locked himself at home, until one day, Tsutsui saw an advertisement on television to make his body strong and muscular. After following the ad's advice and training for weeks, Tsutsui finally managed to have a strong and athletic body. Tsutsui is no longer bullied and instead becomes a delinquent, so he no longer cares about school. Since his arrival was only to hand over the file that was entrusted by Aizawa, Handa then handed the file to Tsutsui. However, Tsutsui misunderstood and was about to hit Handa with a bat. Seeing Handa, who managed to dodge his punch, Tsutsui thought Handa was pretty strong, especially when Handa managed to scare the delinquent students from other schools who were about to beat up Tsutsui with just a look in his eyes. Tsutsui, who had been reluctant to return to school, became touched by Handa's attitude and the sweet note left in the file, so Tsutsui decided to return. The next day, Aizawa and his classmates seemed very surprised to see the drastic change in Tsutsui when the young man finally came to school. On the other hand, Tsutsui decides to always protect Handa by becoming his bodyguard. The scene then switches and shows a young man named Kondo Yukio in a group with Handa, Aizawa, Nikaido, and Tsutsui in a cooking class. Kondo is an ordinary student, unpopular, and always acts normal towards Handa, despite his popularity in school. When Aizawa, Nikaido, and Tsutsui fight over what dish to cook, Handa plans to make a pudding instead because he thinks it's pretty easy. However, Kondo immediately realized that Handa wasn't very good at cooking because the young man used strange ingredients to make pudding, such as soy sauce and salt. Not long after, an incident prevented Handa's group from continuing their cooking activities, leaving only Handa's pudding. Kondo tried to warn Aizawa and the others not to eat the pudding Handa made because it must taste bad. However, Aizawa and the others still appreciated the dish because Handa had already made it for them, so even Kondo had no choice but to join in tasting Handa's pudding. While in class, Handa accidentally drops an eraser belonging to a student named Miyoko sitting next to him. Thinking that Miyoko might be angry with him, Handa gave the girl his eraser. Handa has a good friend, a young man named Kawafuji Takao, who is also good at writing calligraphy like himself. However, because Handa thinks everyone hates him, he doesn't want Kawafuji to be affected. Handa always meets Kawafuji secretly, even hiding somewhere if their schoolmates are nearby because he doesn't want people to bully Kawafuji for being friends with him. Handa always thought everyone hated him, starting when he was still in junior high school, where at that time, Handa first met Kawafuji and became friends with him. One day, Kawafuji expresses his love for a girl. Unexpectedly, the girl turns out to like Handa and intends to express her feelings to Handa. Kawafuji then told Handa that someone had sent him a threatening letter. Handa, who was innocent, then believed Kawafuji's words, so since then, he has always had a bad feeling if someone sent him a letter. Handa also always thinks everyone hates him when their eyes are on him, when in fact, they admire him because he is very handsome and also popular. Kawafuji tries to tell Handa what really happened, but the young man didn't seem to have found the right time to tell the truth. After that, Aizawa and the others were surprised by the rumor that Handa often sells poetry in the park. Realizing that Handa couldn't possibly do that, Aizawa and the others rushed to the park to find out what really happened. They finally met a young man who claimed to be the real Handa. However, Tsutsui and Nikaido didn't believe it and immediately demanded an explanation from the young man by slapping him. After being threatened by Aizawa, the young man finally admits that he is Hanada-ke, a big fan of Handa. Aizawa and the others then asked Hanada to apologize to the real Handa for all the misunderstandings. However, they did not find Handa's whereabouts anywhere and instead found Hanada's writing, which Handa corrected very well. Seeing this, Hanada was touched and decided to no longer claim to be Handa and to be himself as he is. One day, two girls at school were surprised to see Handa seemed familiar with a beautiful woman. They then captured the moment and shared it on social media, which immediately went viral. On the other hand, Handa was surprised by the writing on his desk. Although the writing was a little threatening, and unknown who wrote it, Handa was quite impressed with the writing, which was quite neat. Not long after, the students were surprised by Miyoko, who intends to jump from the top of the building. Miyoko, who turns out to be in love with Handa after the young man gave his rubber eraser to her some time ago, feels frustrated when she learns about Handa's close relationship with a beautiful woman. On the other hand, Handa did not know what was going on. He brought his scribbled table to be replaced with a new one. Miyako, who saw Handa having a monologue in a room, thought that he said that for her, so Miyako finally gave up on jumping from the top of the building. After that incident, Miyako accidentally meets a beautiful woman rumored to be Handa's girlfriend. The beautiful woman turned out to be Handa's mother. The teacher told Handa's mother about Handa's difficulties in socializing with his friends at school. Because of that, they suggested Handa try to engage in small talk with his friends. The next day, Handa then followed the advice of his teacher, but his friends misunderstood him, so a funny incident happened between them. On the other hand, because Kondo had always been so casual with Handa, the young man responded casually to him, so he thought that now he had improved and could socialize well at school. The story continues and shows the student council president, a girl named Sawako, who is also very popular at school because she looks cool and charismatic when wearing a boy's uniform. Sawako, who attaches great importance to the status of women above anything else, apparently doesn't like Handa because of his popularity. Sawako tries to do everything to humiliate Handa, including forcing the young man to wear a girl's uniform. Handa, who did not stay silent, then rushed away from there. However, Sawako and the student council members chase after Handa and corner the young man on the stairs. An unexpected incident occurred when Handa and Sawako accidentally fell from the top of the stairs, where she landed right on top of Handa's body. When Handa is unconscious, Sawako's friends tell the girl that Handa had saved her by sacrificing himself so she would not be hurt. Upon learning that, Sawako immediately felt guilty for Handa. However, Sawako, who hated men because they often underestimated her, became respectful to Handa because the young man saved her. Not long after, Aizawa and the others were shocked by Handa, who had just woken up from his stupor and suffered a mild concussion that caused him to lose his memory. The next day at school, the students were preparing for the exam. When Tsutsui and Nikaido were talking about the exams, how surprised they were when Handa greeted them in such a friendly manner. Knowing that Handa is not like his usual self, Nikaido and Tsutsui assumed that something has happened to him. Aizawa finally told them that Handa had amnesia, and according to the doctor, he would recover in a few days. On the other hand, Handa's drastic change in attitude disgusted the rest of his friends. They even think that he is the fake Handa. Aizawa and the others did not stay silent and tried to heal Handa so the young man could return to his usual self. They also planned to hit Handa's head to cure his amnesia. However, when he was on the stairs, Handa suddenly felt a sharp pain in his head. Flashes of his memories slowly began to return, and he finally remembered who he really was. But then, Aizawa and the others accidentally pushed Handa down the stairs. Handa has returned to being himself, who always thinks everyone hates him. The aura he emitted grew darker and made people more afraid of him. A few days later, Kawafuji invites Handa to play after school. He then agreed, but the young man disguised himself so that Kawafuji would not get in trouble for being seen with him. Kawafuji turned out to invite one of his friends, a young man named Hasegawa, to play with them. Hasegawa is a friendly young man and quickly befriends Handa, who introduces himself as Hanzawa. Hasegawa then invited them to play some games. Even though Handa is not good at bowling and basketball, the young man is quite agile in throwing darts that hit the target. When Kawafuji went to buy drinks, suddenly Handa and Hasegawa were stopped by Hasegawa's seniors in the basketball club, who then bullied Hasegawa. Handa, who didn't let his friend be bullied like that, rushed to the dressing room to reveal his disguise and helped Hasegawa as Handa. Even though Handa didn't say anything and only used sign language with them, the delinquent students left because they didn't want to cause trouble for Handa. The next day at school, Hasegawa accidentally meets Handa, who drops his papers. Hasegawa intended to help Handa, but the young man immediately remembered Handa's words asking him to pretend not to know him when they met at school. On the other hand, Kawafuji couldn't help but laugh because Handa still wasn't confident and thought everyone hated him. The story continues and shows a young man named Higashino who has his own fear of Handa. Higashino wanted to run a race with him because, in middle school, Handa had beaten him in a running competition. Knowing Higashino's phobia towards Handa, Hanada decides to help Higashino race with Handa. However, their efforts were ineffective until Higashino saw Handa running fast one day. Higashino, who couldn't control himself, then ran after Handa and managed to match him. Nevertheless, Higashino immediately noticed something odd when Handa suddenly jumped to the right side of the road, where Handa was actually being chased by a dog. Feeling that he had been tricked, Higashino disliked Handa even more and was determined to beat the young man. On the other hand, Handa told Kawafuji that he was being chased by a dog, but he didn't know a young man was running with him. A few days later, Handa looked worried after reading his zodiac predictions. Even though he doesn't believe in predictions, the young man is overthinking because of the warning. Because of that, Handa asked one of his classmates, a girl named Sugumi, to make fortune-telling on him. Sugumi was quite popular as a good fortune-teller in class, and her predictions were always spot on. Knowing that the most popular boy in her school asks her to make predictions about themselves, Sugumi nervously began to read Handa's line and correctly said what had been weighing on his mind all this time and predicted his future. But Sugumi felt insecure about her skill when divining Handa because he had a hand that was difficult to read. Because of that, Sugumi was determined to train her skills in divination so that her prediction could be more accurate. Shortly after, the teacher distributed the test results to the students, where Tsutsui and Nikaido seemed displeased with their test results, and neither did Handa. Tsutsui and Nikaido, who had to take a remedial test to improve their test scores, finally decided to study together under the tutorship of Aizawa, the first-ranked person in school. Long story short, Tsutsui and Nikaido finally took the remedial test, where they met Hanada and Higashino, who also had to take the remedial test because of poor test scores. Hanada and Higashino scrambled to sit on Handa's seat, but Tsutsui wouldn't allow them and wanted to leave the seat empty. But then, Handa comes there and sits on his chair. Nikaido and the others suddenly wondered why Handa took the remedial test cause he was an intelligent student. They also thought Handa had forgotten to write his name on the answer sheet, which was indeed the case. After taking the remedial test seriously, Nikaido and Tsutsui finally managed to get good grades and thanked Aizawa and Kondo for helping them. On the other hand, Handa did not get a score because the young man forgot to write his name on the exam answer sheet again. The scene then switches and shows a female librarian named Kasumi, who is shy and always spends her time in the school library. Even though the students rarely visit the library these days, Kasumi doesn't seem too concerned about it because the only reason why she's still doing her job as a librarian is Handa. Handa often borrows calligraphy books from the library, and Kasumi, who secretly likes him, is very familiar with the books Handa borrows from the library. Kasumi, an amateur novelist, slips her romantic novel on the calligraphy bookshelf so that Handa can read her book, which tells a love story about a famous young man and the geek female librarian. However, because Kasumi was being so awkward with him, Handa got overthinking and rushed away from there. Not long after, Nikaido and the others come to the library and realize that Kasumi is Handa's secret admirer. Seeing the empty library, they were determined to turn it into a more comfortable place so that many students came to the library, including Handa. After making a few changes in various ways, Aizawa and the others managed to attract students to the library. That thing made Kasumi become overwhelmed by the large number of visitors who came. However, now that the library is becoming more crowded, Handa rarely goes to the library to borrow books. Kasumi also feels very sad because she rarely sees him again. In the afternoon, Handa came to the library when it was quiet and returned the book he had borrowed a few days ago. Handa said that the book's contents were very different from its cover. Kasumi then asks Handa's opinion about her novel. He praised Kasumi as the female librarian who was fully dedicated. Hearing this, Kasumi realized that she shouldn't overthink about romance and should focus on her work to help many people. Kasumi also asks Handa not to come to the library again to focus on her job because she will have difficulty forgetting him if he keeps coming to the library. Knowing this, Handa becomes overthinking and thinks Kasumi hates him because the woman forbids him to go to the library. One day, Handa and his classmates will go on a study tour to Kyoto, where they will go on a study tour with students from other schools. While waiting for the train to depart at the station, Kondo accidentally runs into a student from another school named Tsukasa. Tsukasa is apparently very impressed with his classmate, Ichimiya Asahi, the most popular boy in his school. Kondo and the others apparently boarded the same train as Tsukasa and Ichimiya. But then, they fight with Tsukasa and his friends because Handa accidentally throws candy into the hair of a young man named Gyomoto, who is Tsukasa's friend. Not long after, Ichimiya came there and immediately interrupted them all. Arriving in Kyoto, Handa and his classmates went to the temple to pick up the divination paper. However, they all got bad predictions, which was in stark contrast to Ichimiya, who always got good predictions, as if his life was always surrounded by luck. However, Handa did not seem to care about the prediction and chose to pray at the temple. Ichimiya approached him and asked why he didn't separate his friends when they were fighting. Handa said that it had absolutely nothing to do with him. Meanwhile, Gyomoto and his friends planned to make Ichimiya better than Handa at the hotel. On the other hand, Aizawa and the others didn't allow him to bathe in the public bathhouse, and it made Handa look gloomy because he was forced to take a bath alone in a special bathroom. Handa then becomes overthinking. He is afraid that Aizawa and the others think he is a pervert. In fact, Aizawa and the others did that to protect Handa from the girls who were so curious to see him. That night, Handa and the others decided to sleep early. But then, they were surprised by a doll thrown from upstairs, which was accidentally thrown by Giyomoto and his friends. Because Handa was afraid of ghosts, he didn't wake up during the fuss and chose to continue his sleep. The next day, Tsutsui and his friends were again involved in a conflict with Giyomoto and his friends. Meanwhile, Handa and Ichimiya are enjoying themselves with their respective activities. They then played a game where Aizawa and Kondo, who were hiding, were finally caught by Ichimiya's friend, a young man named Nagamasa. Aizawa apparently knew Nagamasa because the young man was ranked 98th on the list of the 100 most brilliant students in Japan. Meanwhile, Nikaido confronts a girl named Kojika, who is also Ichimiya's friend. On the other hand, Tsutsui seems to be clashing swords against Giyomoto. After that, Kondo met Tsukasa, who turned out to have a similar personality. However, Tsukasa really admires Ichimiya as his idol, while Kondo considers Handa his friend. On the other hand, Handa seems interested in taking pictures with Ichimiya. However, Ichimiya asked him to change his clothes. After Handa took a picture with Ichimiya, Kondo realized that Ichimiya had pranked Handa by sticking candy to his clothes. After that incident, Kondo tried to protect Handa, who was about to be targeted by Ichimiya's friends. On the next day, Ichimiya seems annoyed that the girls can't determine who is more powerful between him and Handa, and they become even more attracted to Handa. On the other hand, Handa is separated from his friends, gets lost, and accidentally meets Ichimiya. Ichimiya then asked if he had always felt burdened by his popularity and surrounded by enemies. Handa answered honestly that he didn't feel that way at all, but Ichimiya didn't believe his words and urged the young man to tell the truth. In another place, Aizawa and his companions seem to be looking for Handa's whereabouts and meet Nagamasa and his friends, who are also looking for Ichimiya's whereabouts. They eventually find Handa and Ichimiya on the bridge and are visibly surprised to learn that Handa refuses to befriend Ichimiya. Handa then explains that he doesn't want to be friends with Ichimiya because Ichimiya is a famous person. Handa doesn't want to make other people jealous by being friends with a famous person like Ichimiya. Handa said Ichimiya already had real friends who were very concerned about him. Ichimiya finally realized the true meaning of friendship and ended it all. However, Tsukasa doesn't want Ichimiya to lose to Handa and rushes forward to attack him. Aizawa and the others quickly pushed Handa away from there to save the young man, while Kondo stepped forward to stop Tsukasa. Long story short, they all finally reconciled and shook hands before separating. However, they seem to have forgotten that Handa fell into the river when he was accidentally pushed by his friends. The story continues and shows the homeroom teacher, a man named Okayama-sensei, arguing with the headmaster about the policy of no longer performing surgery on frogs in biology lessons. Okayama-sensei thinks that frog surgery is vital in biology lessons so that students can know the anatomy of the frog's body. Because the headmaster and the guardians were also against animal dissection, Okayama-sensei took advantage of Handa's popularity to gain support from the students. Handa doesn't like frog surgery because he thinks it's too scary. Moreover, his mother is also against it. However, Aizawa manages to persuade Handa to vote in their class to determine whether they will perform frog dissection in biology or be replaced with a flower arrangement. Handa immediately became overthinking when the voting began. Handa, who didn't want to be seen as a weak young man, was forced to vote for the frog surgery. Long story short, all the students finally followed Handa's decision to support frog surgery. However, when biology class finally started the next day, there was a fuss in Handa's class which caused Okayama-sensei to cancel the frog surgery after Handa lay helpless. Everyone misunderstood Handa's attitude, especially Okayama-sensei, who thought he was warning him not to kill animals by surgery. Okayama-sensei finally realized his mistake and then ordered his students to release the frogs back into their habitat, and after that, they would do flower arrangement activities. One day, Handa, surprised to see Aizawa's presence near his house, thought that Aizawa was a stalker and then ran away. Seeing Handa hurrying to leave, Aizawa even thought Handa was being followed by someone, so he and his friends devised a plan to protect him from the stalker. Kondo then suggested they stay by Handa's side to protect the young man, but Aizawa insisted on protecting Handa from behind the scenes, so it won't bring up the suspicion of many people. On the other hand, Miyoko, who is really in love with Handa, dedicates herself to protecting him from female fans who are too fanatical and often annoy him. Like Aizawa, Miyoko also protects Handa from behind the scenes. Elsewhere, Nikaido and Tsutsui, waiting for Handa's arrival, accidentally met Kasumi, who was about to head to Handa's house to submit her novel. However, they are surprised by the appearance of Miyoko, who immediately ambushes Kasumi because they think Kasumi is a rabid fan who always annoys Handa. Meanwhile, Aizawa and Kondo followed Handa, who was planning to go to the cafe to meet Kawafuji. Handa, who knew he was being followed, rushed away from there as quickly as possible. Having lost track of Handa, Aizawa then asked Higashino to look for Handa's whereabouts and monitor the youth's movements via a GPS tracker. Turning back to Nikaido and Tsutsui, where they continue searching for Handa's whereabouts, they spot a suspicious person, who they think is the stalker. However, while following that person, Nikaido and Tsutsui were trapped in the cage of a fierce dog that was ready to attack them. On the other hand, Handa looks so exhausted from having to run away all the time, even though he just wants to go to the cafe to meet Kawafuji. Handa then tried to take a shortcut by climbing a wall to reach his destination. However, Aizawa and the others were already waiting for Handa there. An annoyed Handa then asked them all not to follow him anymore. Kondo felt guilty for making Handa angry. However, this is not like Aizawa and the others who think Handa said that to the stalkers, not them. Meanwhile, Handa finally managed to arrive at the cafe and met Kawafuji, where he then recounted his experience of being followed by many people on his way to the cafe. Kawafuji, who heard that, seemed relaxed when in fact, that young man was the one who had trapped Nikaido and Tsutsui in the ferocious dog kennel to help Handa. The story continues and shows Kondo, an ordinary boy who doesn't stand out, much less popular than Handa and the rest of his friends. Having always thought of himself as normal, even Kondo never expected to get a letter from someone. He got a letter in a pink envelope with a heart-shaped sticker. Kondo assumed that the letter was most likely a love letter from a girl. On the other hand, Kondo had a problem. He felt that many people were watching him or glaring at him. Kondo thought people might not like his presence in Handa's group of followers because his mediocre self was deemed unfit to be side by side with the smart Aizawa, the popular Nikaido, or the tough Tsutsui. Even Kondo wasn't a runner like Higashino, nor was he good at makeup like Hanada. Kondo, who has no privileges, feels he doesn't deserve to be friends with them. When he finally met the girl who had sent the letter to him, Kondo realized that his assumptions had been true all along. The girl apparently didn't want to express her feelings to Kondo. She asked Kondo to stay away from Handa and his followers such as Aizawa, Nikaido, and Tsutsui. The girl thought Kondo was an ordinary boy who didn't deserve to be friends with those famous students. However, unbeknownst to Kondo, Aizawa and the others had been secretly listening to the girl's words to Kondo. They didn't expect people out there to think that Kondo didn't deserve to be their friend. Because of that, Aizawa and the others convinced Kondo that they adore him as their best friend and value their friendship with Kondo. The scene then switches and shows the school's Bishoujo Comics Club, which consists of 3 students, in danger of being disbanded because none of their comics have been sold. As a student council representative, Aizawa suggested that they make a comic with the theme Handa because he is the most popular student in school, so students will be interested in things related to Handa. But because the 3 students didn't know Handa very well, they tried to find information about Handa's personality. They planned to turn Handa into a female character in their next comic. But then, they realized that Handa was not like the average youth because he was very kind and caring, even as an action figure. Because of that, they decided to make a comic that tells the character Handa is a sweet girl who is kind and liked by many people. After making several copies of the comic Handa-chan, they put the copies of the comic on a pile of paper to be recycled. They went to find Handa to ask his opinion on the comic. Unexpectedly, Handa, who got the task of throwing the recyclables into the garbage truck, found a pile of recycled paper and then threw it away along with a copy of the comic Handa-chan, which was put in an envelope. Meanwhile, the 3 students who found out their comic had been dumped in a garbage truck immediately rushed after the garbage truck. Handa, who realized that a copy of the comics belonging to the Bishoujo Comics Club was accidentally thrown away by him, immediately rushed to help them stop the garbage truck. However, Handa immediately became irritated when he found out that the Bishoujo Comics Club made a comic that depicted him as a cute girl. Long story short, Handa's school will hold a culture festival, and Sawako, as the student council president, asks each class to prepare a fantastic performance because a class that can perform a stunning performance and attracts many audiences will receive prizes and awards from the school. When his classmates were thinking about what theme they would present at the culture festival, Handa sat alone on the stairs while overthinking. Not long after, Sawako came to Handa, asking the young man for help writing beautiful calligraphy for the culture festival. Handa immediately agreed to Sawako's request and then returned to his class. Once there, Aizawa informs Handa that their class will have a performance of the musical Romeo and Juliet, and Aizawa will explain in detail the next day. While on his way home, Handa accidentally saw one of the students from his school being bullied by rebellious students from another school. Handa then hid and was afraid because the rebellious students mentioned his name. At the same time, Tsutsui was already there and questioned why Handa didn't help the young man. Thinking that Handa might be sick because his face was so pale, Tsutsui finally fought the rebellious students and saved the victim of bullying. The next day, his classmates seemed very busy preparing for a musical drama performance, but Handa was asked to just sit and watch them. Feeling very bored from not doing anything, he finally fell asleep until late at night and realized that all his classmates had gone home. Unbeknownst to Handa, the rebellious students were secretly following him home. But when they were about to attack Handa, Tsutsui and the others appeared and immediately blocked them so they wouldn't hurt Handa. Ahead of the celebration of the culture festival at school, the students seemed to be busy preparing everything. The Bishoujo Comics Club has been working hard to make up to 5,000 copies of the comic Handa-chan and hopes their comics will sell out. Meanwhile, in Handa's class, the students seemed to be arguing. It happened because of the roles they got in the musical. Seeing this, Handa asked Aizawa his role, but Aizawa says he doesn't need to think about that because Handa won't be doing many acting scenes. Not long after, Hanada came with Higashino, where he then offered them similar Handa makeup services at a fairly low price. Everyone seemed interested in trying it. The day of the festival arrived. The students seemed happy because many people came to the culture festival at their school. Everyone seemed enthusiastic about visiting the exhibition booth selling all kinds of knickknacks about Handa, including the Bishoujo Comic Club booth selling the Handa-chan comic. Kawafuji, who was curious about the performance by Handa and his classmates, then invited Hasegawa to come to Handa's class. Upon arrival, they were greeted by several students dressed as maids, who offered menu dishes with unique names. After that, they were directed to the audience to watch the musical drama performance, which was about to begin. Handa's class holds a performance of the musical Romeo and Juliet, in which Nikaido plays Romeo and Tsutsui plays Juliet. It's a very absurd and ridiculous show. Kawafuji and Hasegawa were then surprised to find out that Handa played the queen by wearing a long dress and a women's wig. Seeing the presence of Kawafuji and Hasegawa in the audience, Handa suddenly felt very embarrassed and thought of a way to escape. Meanwhile, the rebellious students from Kuro High School come to Handa's school to look for Handa's whereabouts. They bought the Handa-chan comic and liked the adorable storyline. Not finding Handa outside, they entered the school building and headed to Handa's class. But then, they were surprised by the appearance of Hanada and some fake Handa who are very similar to Handa because Hanada's makeup skills are pretty good. However, the rebellious students found out that they had been tricked and then forced Hanada to reveal the location of the real Handa. But Hanada didn't know anything at all. Hanada then meets Aizawa and the others about the delinquent students from Kuro High who are looking for Handa's whereabouts. Hearing this, they rushed to look for Handa all over the place because they were worried about the young man's safety. On the other hand, Ichimiya and his friends also visited the culture festival at Handa's school and bought the comic Handa-chan and all Handa's knickknacks. When everyone was looking for his whereabouts, Handa sat alone behind the stage, waiting for break time. Not long after, the rebellious students from Kuro High School arrived and met Ichimiya and his friends, who had come to watch Handa's class musical drama performance. However, they got involved in a dispute which led to a fight. Hearing the noise in the room, Handa rushed to put on his wig, thinking the show would start again soon. Handa then appeared on the stage and ordered them all to stop fighting according to the dialogue script he had memorized. However, how shocked Handa is when he finds out that the show hasn't started yet, and that it's Kuro High School and Ichimiya's friends fighting. They finally end the dispute, where Kuro High School reveals that they came to be Handa's friends. They finally made peace with Ichimiya's friends, and Handa's class started performing the musical until it was finished. Long story short, in the evening, all the students gathered in the field to wait for the announcement of the assessment results from the teachers and the student council members. Sawako then announced that the best selling at this year's cultural festival went to the Bishoujo Comics Club, which managed to sell 5,000 copies of the Handa-chan comic. Meanwhile, the award for the best class was given to Handa's class. Because of that, Handa was asked to go up on stage and deliver a speech. But then, Kawafuji went on stage and said that he also deserved an award. Kawafuji then tells everyone that he and Handa are good friends and wants to be entitled to the prize too. Suddenly it made Tsutsui and the others angry because Kawafuji was about to steal Handa's gift. Seeing the students fighting and the chaotic situation, Handa immediately felt anxious and overthinking. Kawafuji apparently did this to show Handa that he had not been hated by everyone all this time. Kawafuji then told Handa that they all really admired him and wanted to be friends so that he no longer had to be afraid to socialize. Upon learning that, Handa also told everyone that the award belongs to all who have gone to great lengths to do everything to make the culture festival a success in their school. The students also seemed happy about it and admired him even more. After that incident, Kawafuji asked Handa to be more friendly and open to his friends. At first, he still looked awkward when Aizawa and the others greeted him in a friendly manner. But then, Handa gradually realized that they were his best friends who had always been by his side and supported him. The moral lesson of this anime is, don't think too badly about yourself, because maybe the person you think doesn't like you actually just wants to be friends with you.